This is John B back again. This video right here is to just go over my last video and show some more clearer pictures. And I know some people had some questions in regards to the census record, so I'm gonna go over that real quick. Yes, this is John Stewart. This is my second great grandfather. He had 22 children, two of which are still living to this day. Also, my great grandmother, Elsie Lee Stewart, she has about 100 grandchildren. All right. Well, a lot of people in the comment section were asking me how did I get to those numbers as far as African descendants from his John Stewart's grandfather, who was actually born in Africa in 1790. You got to realize with each generation, it doubles. So I was given like a small estimate. So let's say John Stewart's kids each had 100 grandchildren. All right, that's 2,200 grand descendants just for my second great grandfather. And we move a generation back to his father, that's going to be double, so it's 44. So I gave it like a small estimate for his father at 6,600 descendants that actually descended from Africa. All right, myself, I'm not the only person that can actually find documentation back to Africa. All right, so I'm not saying that you're not indigenous to America. All I'm saying is the percentage, 2%, isn't the right number. All right. Again, 2% of all African Americans aren't from Africa. It's a much higher number than that. You understand? The only way that's even possible, I don't even think there's no way that's possible. Because if you just do the simple math with just my family alone, that's impossible. There would have been a huge cover up for that to actually happen. And that's not the case based on the documentation. And I'm in a group right now where we actually study this. We study moving forward. All right. This is John Stewart's grandfather, Peter Stewart. All right. What you notice here, 1870 census, his age is 90. Birth year about 1780. All right. And then it says birthplace Africa. And a current hometown during the 1870 census is in South Carolina. All right. Well, a lot of people on the comment section was mentioning that African Americans went back to Africa and Liberia. All right. Now, keep in mind, Liberia was founded in 1822. All right. Transatlantic slave trade ended in 1807. All right, and his birth year was 1780 in Africa. All right, so the transatlantic slave trade didn't end for another 20 plus years. All right, he was still captured during that time period. And I watched another video from Renaissance, and he mentioned that like majority of African Americans, he actually said all of them came from like a specific place in Africa, which that's incorrect, man. African Americans, they came from all over the continent, from north to south, from Morocco to Ghana to Nigeria, from Angola down to Mozambique, Madagascar, South Africa, all over. All right. But as I progress, let me go ahead and go to the next slide. Let me show you the hard copy of the census record, because a lot of people ask me that. Can I see the hard copy of the census record? All right. So hopefully this is clear enough. I want you guys to look at section 10 on the census record. It says place of birth, Africa. All right. So I want you guys to, hopefully this is transparent enough. So I don't want anybody to have any questions, concerns. Hopefully it's transparent enough. Back in Africa. All right. Let me go to the next census. This person was Virginia Newman, age 85, birth year 1835, in Louisiana. Uh, mother's birthplace was Africa. Father's birthplace Mississippi. All right. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and move forward. I seen a video of an African girl who had a paradigm shift from her views on African Americans once she took the DNA test and found out that not only um, did she have cousins in Africa from African Americans that she never knew, she had a paradigm shift on her view of African Americans. Instead of thinking them as a different culture, she thought of them as family and thought of them totally different. And she basically was saying is, what if African Americans and Africans got together? How powerful we would be. I want you to go ahead and watch this video, and I want you to see for yourself.
Actually, it sounds really weird, out of context, but so here's the thing. I did a DNA test. I did 23andMe, and I was doing it just to get my DNA so I can find out if I have some genetic risk factors for diseases or cancer or something, because I didn't do it for ancestry reasons, because I thought I pretty much know what I am. Both my parents are Nigerian, all my grandparents are Nigerian, their parents are Nigerian, I'm Nigerian, Igbo to be specific, and I thought I'm not doing this to learn about where I came from, and who knows, maybe like some English colonial came into the bloodstream or something. I might find that out. So I got my results, and I'm 99.97% West African, and the other 0.03 is Central Africa. So I was like, well, that's boring. But I did check on the website. There's a option to allow people who are related to you to message you so that you can connect. And I checked that because I thought, well, you never know. And I was expecting maybe, some other people in Africa to message me and, find out I have a long-lost cousin in Mali or something. But that's not what happened. What happened was a lot of Americans are messaging me. More specifically, a lot of Black Americans are messaging me. And we would find out that we have like a great grandparent in common. And we would add each other on Facebook, and like sometimes I would see like the Nigerian features, like, wow, you do got Nigerian in you. And I've only casually thought about how Black Americans are, related to us present-day Africans. Just casually thought about it, but I never really thought about it in regards to how I fit it or what I can learn or contribute from that. So the other day, this lady messages me, and she's so gung-ho about it. She's like, here's my phone number, call me, let's add each other on Facebook, oh my God, you look like my daughters. And she's just so gung-ho. She's like, I can't wait to meet your family, I can't wait to learn more about Mbise. Like, she's so excited. And me, I'm just like, calm down. But she sent me, there's a website you can put your 23andMe results into. This website you can put your 23andMe results into called GED Match, and it breaks down exactly what nations and area that you're from, because 23andMe only tells you regionally where your DNA is from. So regionally, I'm West African, almost 100%. But I don't have the breakdown, right? So I put myself into GED Match. I haven't figured out what the breakdown is, but she showed me her breakdown, and her mom 50% Nigerian. So to me, I'm like, oh, okay, that means, you know, one of your grandparents immigrated and married, you know, somebody, and, you know, surely your grandparents instilled some Nigerian traditions, and maybe your mom knows a little something. And the lady said no. The lady said, our whole family is American. My grandparents are American, and my great-grandparents are American. We don't know anything about Africa. We especially don't know anything about Nigeria. And she even showed me pictures of her grandmother, that's the bloodline, that's Nigerian. And she didn't even look Nigerian to me. She did not look like, she looked Cuban or so. She looked like an Afro-South American to me. She didn't look I would never think that this woman is even 50% Nigerian. I would think she's like a mix of many African nations and indigenous nations of South America or something. So we were just thinking, like, okay, who's our great-great-great-grandparent who was taken into slavery? And the lady asked me if we have any stories about relatives being taken into slavery. And I was like, are you kidding me? No. That's like, we don't talk about that. It's like asking us if we have any stories of relatives who were taken in the Holocaust. No, it's like, why would we talk about that? That has nothing to do with us. What do you mean? So that's kind of like how slavery is too. Is like, no, we don't. Slavery, we're still in Africa. Slavery has nothing to do with us, right? That's kind of how it is. We just don't. It's just not something that comes up ever. And it's really interesting because it should. Because I just started to realize that the way I view Black Americans is a view that is of someone who doesn't believe that she's a part of them. So the way that I, typically viewed Black American culture was I viewed it as a culture that's not my own. I viewed it as something that I didn't contribute to, that I am unaware of, that I don't know about, that I need to learn about, just like any other culture. Just like any other culture that I didn't grow up with. I viewed it as something that, I don't know, I would love to learn more. But when you really think about it, Black culture, the way Black people speak in different regions, Ebonics, Creole, whatever, the food that is a part of Black American culture and the different regions, the way, the feeling you get, the music, just the culture is the result of Africans being mixed together in the conditions of slavery. That's what would happen. That's what would happen if my parents came here, not by choice, but by force in slavery conditions. The culture that we have now in America is the result of a bunch of Africans being mixed together. And when I made that realization, it's like, it's as if, if you have a high school rivalry, right? I went to Garland High, and our rival was South Garland High. And if they took some kids from Garland High and some kids from South Garland and made us, work in a factory together, we can no longer be rivals. All that tribalism and stuff, it kind of goes out the window because we have no choice. And, we speak different languages. But what if you're the only person who speaks your language And the only people who are willing to be around you and talk to you and help you are people with your skin color. You guys are gonna be forced to learn how to work together, even if there's a language barrier, even if there's a cultural barrier. And of course, how can you continue the culture, right, if you can no longer keep your language because you have to assimilate to all these other Africans? You can't keep your language. You don't have the means to cook and eat the way that you are used to, so you have to make do with what you know, with what you have. You know, I just like imagine especially if you're African, just imagine what that would be like, and then how that would play out in generations. Bam, this is the result. And what really blows my mind is that this lady's mom is 50% Nigerian. She has like other African stuff in her, but she's half Nigerian and she didn't know it. And that makes me wonder, how did that happen? Was that just happen chance? Or, you know, were you a slave and you run into another slave who speaks Igbo and you're like, hey, let's stick together because we're the same people? Or was it just by chance? Or how did that happen? And it makes me wonder how many Black people walk down the street and I have no idea that we have that in common. See, in Nigerian culture, if you know somebody is Nigerian, you greet them in the way that we do in our culture. You hug them, you're more tender to them. Like, you just fall into that culture naturally, and it's more warm and it's more loving because you know you can do that, because you know that they are what you are, and you know that they share what you share, and you know that it's not going to be like, what are you doing type of thing. And I don't do that to people who are not Nigerians, like to strangers. I just, be American. Or like what we do to most strangers, we just ignore them. We just, nod your head or just go about your business and you ignore them. But when somebody tells me they're Nigerian, all of a sudden my interest is a little bit more piqued. Like, hey, what's up? What are you doing over here? And it just makes me wonder how many Black people, and even people who aren't Black, there's probably some white people who are Nigerian and they just have no idea. How many Black people walk down the street and I just treat them like a stranger, neither of us knowing that we actually could be related and that we actually once shared the same culture not too long ago. In the grand scheme of humanity, it's not too long ago that the Black people who were brought here from slavery were with us on the continent and in our countries and in our tribes, speaking our language, eating our food. So that just really blew my mind. It really changed the way that I view Black culture, because if I view Black culture as something that, my people contributed to it, because the people who created American Black culture are my people. They just were taken away. If I view it that way, it's no longer like a mystery. It's like it just brings a bigger sense of unity, and I wish more people viewed it that way, because the way I was raised, there's a lot of Blacks who aren't Black Americans kind of viewing Black Americans as something else, and they got their own problems to deal with. But if we could actually view Black Americans and actually all Blacks born of slavery in North America and South America as, they were actually with us. They are actually African just like us. If we remember that, what would things look like? How would we interact with each other? It's just, I don't know. It just really blows my mind. I think it's amazing. And I'm very curious now. I want to know what happened. Like, who is my great-great-great-grandpa who I have no idea existed, who was taken from the rest of our family and brought here and started a whole family tree in America that the rest of us in Nigeria are just totally unaware of. We have big families in Nigeria. And to think that the family tree is probably even bigger and actually very diverse, there's probably a lot of other races in our family tree now, it kind of blows my mind. I think everybody should get DNA tested, so we can all link up. Even if you think you have nothing to learn, I thought I had nothing to learn. Okay, I was like, yeah, I'm 99.97% Nigerian, big whoop. This was maybe a little bit of a waste of money, I don't know. But after Black Americans started connecting to me, I realized, oh my God, I haven't even scratched the surface. So I just wanted to share that, because my mind is blown a little bit. And I wanted to spread that message and see what people have to say, what people have to think of that, and how we can increase that sentiment, because I think a lot of good would come from everyone viewing each other as potential loved ones.